one of the things I talk to parents about, and one of the things that we talk to the kids about, is trying to have a sensible conversation with your children, and the children trying to have a sensible conversation with their parents. That is one of the areas where I did not do it right. My idea of dealing with Amy's problems was, obviously screaming and shouting, falling on the floor, pretending I was ill, anything to shock her into stopping what she was doing. That is not the way to handle it. The way to handle it is to try and have sensible conversations around the subject. And I didn't do that.
Right, and that's what I think is the power of what we're having this discussion about,
yes,
because there are a lot of people out there who I know you referenced, you pretended to be ill. I read in my pre-interview, and doing my research, and as I said, for a week now, you pretended to have a heart attack. Amy showed up at the hospital and said,
right.
Dad, knock it off. I know you're not sick. You were trying, you say, to get her attention. And now, all these years later, you are trying to show others that that is not the approach. So now going back to Amy and looking at what happened to her, and what it seemed like, Mitch, is we were all watching and feeling like no one was doing anything. But in fact, that's what your issue is with this documentary, among other reports out there.
Her family and friends were with her all the time. Whenever she needed to or wanted to go into rehab, obviously we tried to get her into rehab all the time, but it was more detox than rehab.
Yeah.
And subsequently she would get dry. But I mean, Tamron, I hope you've read my book and you've done your research.
I did.
Said, she was clear of drugs for 3 years at the point of her death. So something happened positively over that period. She didn't take drugs. And people still talk to me today about the fact that Amy died of a drugs overdose, which we know is not the case.
What do you think went wrong between that period and that last concert?
She never dealt with her addictions properly by going to rehab. So the drugs stopped, but alcohol started. And, alcohol doesn't have the social stigma that drugs has. You can get alcohol easily, as you know. But you see, the problem with that film, with that film is that you go from 2008 and you think that Serbia was the very next thing that she did. Nobody knows, or very few people know, about the wonderful shows that she did in Brazil over the New Year period 2010-2011. So there was some very difficult periods during that 3-year period, but there was some wonderful shows as well. And Serbia, I can't comment on. I wasn't there. Had I been there, she certainly would not have gone on stage.